Bo Nickal, how good is he? How good is he right now? That's a question that I continue to get asked. Now, if Bo is the greatest wrestler to ever do this sport, now on paper, he's not. Yoel Romero, just by example, is who Daniel Cormier himself said is the most decorated. Henry Cejudo would have an argument to that, and when Daniel Cormier made the statement about Yoel Romero, Henry Cejudo's not yet in the organization. I'm just sharing with you, but you're talking about on paper. That's not the same thing as who's the best wrestler. The best wrestler the sport of MMA has ever seen, who got more takedowns and was taken down less than anybody, is a guy who's never had a wrestling match. His name is George St-Pierre. So you're having a much different conversation. Khabib Nurmagomedov, who respects wrestling, but he does not represent it. He represents Sambo, and he's proud, and that's what he wants to do. And the next on his list is judo. Spent a ton of time in the wrestler, but he's not representing it. And on paper, you're not going to find very many Khabib matches for wrestling, but in the octagon, Khabib would be number 2, and a lot of people would say number 1 ever for wrestling. So it comes back to the question of how good is Bo at wrestling, right? It's a very different question. Jon Jones would be a fine example. Jon Jones is a national wrestling champion. I can't remember the last time that's ever been announced when he's walked into the octagon. I can't remember the last time he's done a seminar, walked into a group in front of kids. Anybody ever mentions that? I mean, in many ways, Jon's effectiveness, even though it was a state champion, which was the highest level he could get through high school. He was a national champion in college, which was the highest level that he could get. Was signed to a Division I program, went and did something else in life. I'm just sharing for you the question of how good is Jon as a wrestler, and if you want to look and say, well, his highest achievement was a junior college championship. We have NCAA champions, and therefore they're better than Jon. That might be on paper, but that never actually got tested. I personally witnessed Jon Jones grapple a two-time Olympian. And it was very one-sided for Jon. So now you start opening these questions, just how good is he? If that doesn't get tested, you know how far a guy went, it's one of those hard things to know. So with Bo, to answer your question, I believe Bo to be a 4-time world champion. Now, those were age groups titles, which for me doesn't make a bit of difference. For some people, it does. I believe him to be a 4-time champion. The official story says he's a 1-time champion. I believe the NCAA, which is just contested in America, but it's a style that only America does. So if only America does it, if everywhere on the globe, one place does it, and you have that place's champion, I believe you now have a world champion. Even if we're fixing it, the NBA fixes it. The NBA is happy to tell the world they're the National Basketball League, but Jim Rome and other pundits are happy to tell they're world champions. Fine. The NFL, which starts with national foot, they tell the truth. But then they get rings and trophies that say they're the world champion. Okay, fine, but if that's what we're going to do, then the NCAA is too. Most definitely. I believe Bo won 3 NCAA world championships, along with the University World Championships. Now, how good is he? That's your guys' question, and I'm attempting to tell it to you. Is the fact that he's a great wrestler, some say the greatest. I mean, if you want to say that, and let's just concede it, Bo's the greatest wrestler ever to do MMA. Let's concede the point. Is that enough? Does that matter? Why'd you even bring it up? It hasn't helped anybody else. If I was to bring you the world's greatest boxer, are you going to bet on him in the octagon? Here it is. It's Canelo Alvarez. Canelo, get in there. Here, it's Floyd. Floyd, jump in there. Go in a time machine. Floyd, you're 33 again. Get in there. You're the greatest. Are you guys going to bet on him? No. If I bring you the world grappling champion, are you going to bet? I mean, it's one of those things. So what if you are? So how good is Bo? I'll help put this in perspective for you with wrestling terms. There's a guy in the UFC named Deron Winn. If Deron and Bo were to wrestle, Deron would win. Now, if I'm wrong, okay, that's a 5-3 match. That's a 3-1 match. It's going to be close, and even if I'm wrong, you see where it's tight. It's going to be very competitive. Just to put it in perspective for you. Deron Winn has had a good fight career, but he hasn't taken everybody down. He's not able to use that wrestling. Bo, on the other hand, appears cover the distance well. I'm going to a lot of practice room stories. You haven't seen a lot of this in his actual competition. He also appears to have a pretty good understanding with the hands. He appears to have range. One of the reasons that I believe in Bo is, one, because of the youth, and two, because of the proven ability to compete. I appreciate that Bo has those 4 world championships that I just discussed. I appreciate that. But what I get from that is that he understands how to compete. He knows how to travel. He knows how to make weight. He knows how to be on an own. He knows to listen to his coach. He understands time and space. Bo's in an interesting place in his career right now because you guys are interested in him, but you're interested for positive reasons. You want to see him do well. You want to see him succeed. You want to see him go far. There are people that are calling for Bo versus Adesanya right now. Now, if we fast forward the tape 2 years and Bo remains undefeated, people are going to stop him. They're going to attempt to stop him from getting the fight with Adesanya if it means a world championship. If Bo proves to have the success that everybody's excited about, and this is a fresh name, if he proves that, if he gets in the marquee, if he gets in the big spot, now you start cheering against him. That's just the cycle. Everybody goes through it, including Chimaev. Chimaev is the hottest thing that MMA media has seen in the last 36 months. The absolute #1 hottest. But people will start tuning in a very short period of time to see him lose. That's okay. It's just part of it. How good do you have to be at fighting to be the world champion? It's an interesting question. The first night that Henry Cejudo fought for a world championship, he did not belong in there. The second time that he fought for it, he won it, and he wasn't as good as his opponent. Well, how's that work? Henry was not as good of a kickboxer or a grappler as his opponent, but he beat him. How does that work? Well, he knows how to compete. He knows what a 10-9 must system is. He knows when there's 30 seconds left in a round, he's got to put his foot on his gas and press the judges. He knows how to do these things. That's what he did. He went and captured his championship. His skills have later caught up. But he was raw at one point and still winning. I bring it to you because it's a very fair example. And Bo's going nice and slow. A lot of people were upset and even thought that he was snubbed by Dana. One person that wasn't upset was Bo. I value that. I value that he sees the benefit in competing. No matter who the opponent is, right? There's no such thing. There should not at least be such a thing as a hard fight or an easy fight. I never had one. But there shouldn't be a hard fight or an easy fight for anybody. They should all be the exact same, which is absolutely everything you've got. You leave it in there. You feel like you were hit by a bus. You are exhausted. You can hardly stand in the back. You're looking for a trash can to vomit. Whether you walked through the guy or whether it was a split decision, it should be the same effort by you. But not everybody understands that. I feel as though Bo does. I feel as though Bo would agree with what I just said. That every match is the exact same approach, the exact same amount of training. The goal of the night of sleep before. The carbs and the calories and the protein that you put in breakfast in your body the day of the fight, that it's all the same, that everything gets treated the same. You go out there, you put on your best performance, you don't think about the outcome. The wrestling component, I do feel, gets blown up. And if you juxtapose that against the world's greatest grapplers who get in there, nobody thinks that Gordon Ryan could walk in and win the championship tonight at any weight class. Nobody believes that Canelo could come in at any weight class and win it tonight. So it's one of those things. What difference does it make? What difference does it make how beautiful his record was when a guy like St-Pierre, who's never even owned a singlet, is the most effective the sport's yet to see, right? It's one of those things. But it needs to be looked into and it needs to be progressed. One thing that will happen with wrestlers, particularly good ones, is they will quit practicing wrestling. They will think that they have it. I'm not suggesting that Bo is going to do this, but everybody else has. So it would be a fair category to put them in that, but I already have the wrestling. And then they'll go spend their time on other things. And when the house is on fire, which is anytime you're in the octagon, they slam that door and say, go, you're going to turn to what you're most comfortable with, which is the wrestling, which you're going to find out over a period of time is the one thing that you haven't sharpened and it got awfully dull. And just because you leveled yourself out as an even mixed martial arts, shut up with that. I hear people talk about a well-rounded fight. Shut up with that. The greats aren't. Just so you understand, just so you can stop telling me about being well-rounded and how important it is. The greats aren't. Khabib won every fight the same way. Israel Adesanya, every fight keeps, just so you understand, the greats are very heavy in one dimension. And if Adesanya had come over or Pereira had come over with a lifetime of kickboxing, so well, I'm a mixed martial artist now and I've got to work on my guillotine and my double leg. You're not really showing a confidence to your skill. If a wrestler goes out there and starts boxing, if he ends up boxing because his wrestling failed, great. If he goes out there and chooses to box as opposed to imply his wrestling over a short period of time, he's not a very good wrestler anymore. It's a mistake. And the guys that do, the wrestlers that do well in fighting, in wrestling, in the wrestling department, they keep wrestling. They stay in the room. They go catch those guys like Frankie Edgar that could still take guys down 20 years after they left college. We're still going to the college room and practicing those takedowns. It's one of those things. How good is he at wrestling? How is he a well-rounded fighter? Shut up. Is he good at competing? Is he a tough guy? Can he stay focused? Can he stay in the moment longer than his opponent? That is what's being contested here.